Hello, friends. Welcome to our channel, new NBA USA friends. All off-season long, they're making trades left and right, signings left and right. But then a lot of fans are saying, Fuzzy, you're hyping up Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt in 2025. Get over yourself. They're not that good, but if you ask me, maybe I'm an eternal optimistic. The Wodo pivot has been really good. Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, Devin Williams, and Max Free in the span of a few weeks, that's good. We'll talk about that later on in the video because we do have to talk about that trade first and foremost. And before we do that, I have a small little story I want to talk about because it's about the luxury tax. A lot of poor teams are about to get a huge amount of money. So according to the reports, there was a record $311 million in luxury tax penalty. So again, Major League Baseball does not have a salary cap. They have a fake salary cap that if you go above this specific number, you get taxed on every dollar. You go over that. And if you do that for a few years in a row, the taxes go up and up. So to break down what happens to that $311 million, and essentially fees, $3.5 million goes to player benefits. $13.75 million is going to the MLB retirement fund. So we know that if you reach a certain amount of years, you get a pension, and finally the rest of the money. The other $13.75 million goes to revenue sharing. And don't forget this, the low-revenue teams, the poor teams get the majority of revenue sharing. The Yankees and the Dodgers, they put in more money than they get out. They have to put in a lot of money because they get taxed, because they're spending all this. But because they make so much, they're almost getting nothing in revenue sharing. This is to help out teams like the Guardians, the Rays, the Pirates, the A's. Of course, the A's, because they don't spend any money, they're going to get the most of this pot, about $70 million of that $153.75 million. So again, if you're bootlicking owners, they're getting a lot of free money just for not spending. So stop bootlicking. I get it. Maybe you're just misinformed, but owners can spend whenever they want. Let's just get that out the way. Time to talk about the Yankees and Reds trade before we talk about who the Yankees got. We'll go over who the Reds are getting in return for a couple different guys. Jose Trino is going to the Reds, so we know that he's 32 years old, but a couple years ago, this dude was an all-star and a Platinum Glove winner back in 2012. Again, he was an all-star. Ever since that point, though. He's been decent. Defensively, we'll talk about his weaknesses in a moment, but he has a 70 ops plus in the box since 2022. He just has not been able to replicate the success for yet 11 home runs and a 9 ops plus in the same season that he won a Platinum Glove. Now, speaking of his defense, he's one of the best framers and blocking catchers in baseball. If you need a ball called the strike, you look for a guy like Jose Trevino or Austin Hedges. Same thing goes for blocking Hedges and Trino. They elite at blocking and framing. Now, the one thing that Trino does not do well, like he sucks at it. If you and I played catcher for the Reds, and you had to compare arm strength between you and Jose Chinho, you might actually win now. I know that's probably being a little bit hyperbolic and probably disrespectful, but he is useless at throwing guys out. Just watch the Guardian series. Whenever Jose Trino was catching, they were on the move, and because of that, he almost didn't get any starts. Austin Wells essentially stole his job because, one, he's the better offensive player. He's not the framer or the blocker, but he throws out guys at a higher clip. Jose Trevino, he's a backup for Tyler Stevenson. He's going to really help out the young staff with Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott. You have Rhett Lauder. Other guys like Brady Singer, Nick Martinez, Nick Lolo, who've been around, having a great framer as a backup catcher who can hit you 10 home runs if he does bounce back. That's a really solid backup option. And I guess if you remember that Tyler Stevenson, their main catcher, has had ups and downs in terms of staying healthy and regressing. He was insane in 2024. I feel like he's going to be just as good in 2025, but Jose Trino as a backup guy, pretty solid option. The Yankees also got a catcher in this trade, but I'm going to talk about it for 5 seconds. They get the Christmas baby. Alex Jackson, he's going to be 29 years old this Christmas. He's one of the worst hitters we've ever seen. He has a career 27 ops plus. That is not a lie. Like 27, not 207 or any 27 ops plus. He's a decent framer at best. That's all I got for you guys in terms of their first guy, that they got talking about the Yankees, their big fish of the trade, is 34-year-old. I did not realize that Fernando Cruz was 34 years old, but he is a prolific strikeout machine. He has a career 14 strikeouts per 9, and that's because he maybe has the best splitter we've ever seen again. That might be a little bit dramatic, but last ye. Fernando Cruz to Luke Weaver to Devin Williams is going to be one of the more devastating 1-through-3 trios of any bullpen in the game of baseball. I really like what they've done lately. I'm going to throw the Cardinals hat on real quick because our next story is going to segue into Paul Goldie going to the Yankees, but staying with the Cardinals. The Yankees tried to get Nolan Arenado a few days ago, according to reports. Who did they offer? Marcus Stroman and the Cardinals? They pretty much laughed at that and said, yeah, we want more than Marcus Stroman if we're going to give you Nolan AR. Now the money? It's not similar. It is up there because Marcus Stroman's getting about $18.5 million for the next 2 seasons. Arenado, he makes 32, which is a lot for 2025. Then 27 again, a lot if he's not going to pick up the pace in the batter's box. And then $15 million in 3 seasons when he's 36 years old. So in a couple years, it won't be that bad. But for right now, the Cardinals are saying, now we need more. And one more thing as well. Nolan Arenado has a no-trade clause, and rumors were saying that he wasn't going to accept it, but that could very well change, now that his buddy Paul Goldschmidt is now a Yankee. He's on the evil empire. Because Paul Goldschmidt is one of my favorite players in baseball, I'm going to play a little bit of narrative ball and hype him up before we talk about the full context of his past season. Because he wasn't great for the entire year. Like, we got to talk about that. But the Yankees are taking a flyer on an MVP for $12.5 million. So the fact that they picked up Devin Williams, Max Reed on the pitching side of things, and Paul Goldman and Cody Bellinger on the offensive side of things, to me, that's a pretty good pivot. And now they can say that they are the only team in baseball other than the Dodgers to have 4 MVPs on one squad. The Dodgers have Kershaw, Betts, Ohtani, and Freeman. The Yankees now have Stanton, Judge, Bellinger, and Paul Goldie, so they're competing on every level now. Again, let's play some narrative ball when it comes to the 2022 MVP and the future Hall of Famer Paul GCH. I'm already starting with the glazing. He was elite. Elite squared in the final month of the season last year in September. He hit .330 with a .920 ops that was over his final 30 games. He had an .800 ops in the second half last year, which was actually higher than Gunnar Henderson and Bryce Harper. His exit velocities and hard hit percentage were some of the best of anyone in baseball. He was top 8% in hard hit percentage, which means that when he's healthy, he can still tear covers off of baseballs. He's 4 doubles away from 450 for his career. He has 362 career home runs with almost 170 stolen bases as a full-time first baseman. That is insane. He has a career 140 ops, plus he's won 4 Gold Gloves and MVP. He is a future Hall of Famer 1,000%. But again, that's me playing narrative ball. The truth is, as much as I love, Goldie is one of my favorite players of all time because he lets his bat do all the talking. I don't even know what he sounds like, really. Obviously I do, but he rarely says anything. He reminds me a lot of Grady Seor. They just show up and play, and that's it. But, Paul Goldschmidt was, I don't want to say useless, but he was pretty abysmal in the first half of 2012 to the tune of a .291 on-base percentage and a .664 ops. Like, that's bad. That almost gets you cut on any other team not named the A's. He'll be 38 years old in September of next year, so he's going to play the majority of 2025 at 37 years old. And if you look at Carlos Santana, he just won his first ever Gold Glove, and he put up a 110 ops plus at his age, 37, 38-year-old season. So if Carlos Santana can do it, who has never been the player of Paul GMI, I'll take a flyer $125 million for a future Hall of Famer, a former MVP in Goldie. Yeah. Give me that. This could also mean that Nolan Arenado joins the Yankee and waives that no-trade clause, which would allow Jazz Chisholm to go back to second base, and that would be an off-season in the books. Like the Yankees would be done after that Stroman's 9-ish, million would go away, but then they would assume Aaron's 3.227 and then 15 million over the next 3 years. But if that does happen, I don't know if they would go Jazz as the leadoff guy, or maybe Volpe. Maybe he earned after the playoffs, because Volpe did hit .290 with a .410 on base and 5 stolen bases in the playoffs. That's really good. But if they don't do that, maybe they go Jazz, Judge, Bellinger, Stanton, Arado, Wells, Goldie. I don't know if Goldie would be a 7-hitter Volpe and Dominguez. That's a great lineup, especially if we're talking about 2017, 2018. That's one of the best Battle Royale lineups I've ever seen when it comes to MLB The Show. Listen, none of these guys are whoa, but the pivot, it's been good. I'm not going to lie. I know a lot of people are going to say Fuzzy are hyping up washed-up players that should be retired. I don't think let you guys. I read the stats. I see the exit velocities.